Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, March 18th, 2023. And our top story today, it's SecureSaturday, how the SecureAct helps non-traditional workers. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, John Scott is the director of the Retirement Savings Project at the Pew Charitable Trust. John, it's always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Great to see you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure chatting with you and your colleague, Allison Shelton. There's a lot going on at the Pew Charitable Trust in terms of general research, but a lot in retirement savings. One of the things that we've talked about with you and Allison is non-traditional workers. And there are many people that of which I would consider to be a non-traditional worker that don't have a workplace retirement plan. And my first question to you, your reaction to Secure, the passage of Secure, and what that could mean for non-traditional workers.
Yeah, it's a great question because there's a big piece of legislation that follows on, of course, Secure 1.0, which was another big piece of legislation. So a lot going on in the retirement policy landscape, and obviously it's going to play out over several years. As it applies to non-traditional workers, which just for your viewership, we're talking about a wide range of types of workers, from independent contractors, gig workers, the self-employed, day laborers, temps, anybody that's not in a traditional employer-employee relationship. So at one cut of this, you could say the Secure 2.0 legislation and its antecedent doesn't really apply directly because the vast majority of the provisions apply to employer-sponsored plans. And of course, those are the plans that cover traditional workers that are in an employer-employee relationship. But I think if we can get into a few of the provisions that maybe indirectly apply to these non-traditional workers. So, the first bottom line I would say is there's no direct impact. There's no sort of provision there that says we're targeting non-traditional workers and creating a new retirement savings system for them.
So John, Congress spent a lot of time working through this, and I know that coverage is a big issue, right? I mean, it's not like they don't know that there are people 60, 70, whatever the million people that don't have access to this, but for the most part, it really beefed up the traditional retirement system. What about state-run plans? Are they still the go-to when it comes to, when I say state-run, I mean auto IRA programs, California, Oregon.
Sure.
What are there, like 15? Cal Savers. There's like 15 of them, I think, at this point, right?
There's about 12. Yeah, there's about a dozen.
They're growing.
Yes.
But is that really still the main opportunity for these workers to save?
Well, even those programs, they're really designed for the traditional employees as well. So, it's possible in some states for the self-employed to self-enroll into a Cal Savers or a similar program if the program permits it. But even those state programs, they're not really designed for these non-traditional workers, at least not ideally designed for them. So I think both the private market as well as these state programs, they're coming up a little bit short in terms of this segment of the workforce.
But John, or plain question, I mean, this is from my understanding and reading your research and learning about this classification of workers, this is a growing set of workers. I mean, there are people my age, older, younger. I've interviewed people on this network who have had traditional jobs and then created their own thing. So this is a growing population of people. So this is a solution is needed, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's hard to get a handle around the numbers, but different sources say different percentages of the workforce, but it could be as high as 40% of the workforce are in non-traditional work arrangements. I mean, you mentioned you're one, I'm one. I have a part-time gig in addition to my real job at Pew. So, there's a lot of different situations, and you're right. The evidence points to a growing segment of the workforce. So, but even the Secure 2.0 didn't really deal directly with the access issue. I think that's one of the failings of the Secure 2.0 legislation. It didn't really provide for the federal equivalent of a state auto IRA or other, similar kind of mechanisms. So, access in general is still a problem. It's particularly acute with non-traditional workers, but there are some provisions in Secure 2.0 that could be helpful, depending on how they play out.
And what provisions, if you wouldn't mind, not to put you on the spot, but what when you think about those provisions, there are like 94 of them. So Which you don't have to tell me all 94, but what are
Thank
some
you.
that pop out to you? Yeah, I mean, it's not a quiz, but
So I think the one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of these workers, there's about at least 2/3, according to our data, that are in multiple jobs. And some of those are multiple non-traditional jobs, and some are a mix of, well, like me, I have a traditional job as well as a non-traditional job. And so about 40% of our sample from our survey research shows that these workers have both a traditional and non-traditional job. And so for those folks that have a traditional job, in addition to being an independent contractor or something else, these provisions would directly apply to them. So, automatic enrollment for new plans going forward, or the starter K. So you can imagine someone who's got a regular W-2 job and they're sort of making some extra money on the side, but maybe they're at a small business that doesn't offer retirement benefits, so that could be helpful to them. I think there's also the part-timer provision, which it sort of addresses the issue of part-timers who are traditionally not eligible or usually not eligible for a retirement plan. The Secure 2.0 brought that down from like 3 years of being a long-term part-timer to 2 years. You can imagine a lot of these non-traditional workers are working part-time, or at least, a subset of them. So they might be affected that way. And then I think the big one is the savers match. So we've always had a savers credit, but it's not been very effective because it's just applies if you have a tax liability. The Secure 2.0 changed that into a refundable tax credit, now called the savers match. So you don't have to file, or you don't have to have a federal income tax liability to get it, and it would be paid directly into your retirement account. That would apply to folks that have an IRA. So you can imagine a lot of non-traditional workers, if they are saving into an IRA, they could take advantage of that savers match, and it might be enticing for people to open up an IRA to get at that savers match. So again, these are provisions that sort of, are around the edges. They don't squarely address the problem, but I think they could be helpful.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like it is ultimately, John, what we have seen since the passage of the Pension Protection Act in '06, that auto enrollment feature, which may not exist for somebody who is a non-traditional worker because they're not in a plan. That is a very powerful feature. So being able to auto enroll somebody and therefore set up a deduction is pretty powerful, right? I mean, and
Well,
if you don't
that's
have
the
that,
engine.
that's
Yeah.
the engine that drives everything. So you have to literally opt out. And without that, without a plan to put people in, that you don't get that engine, basically bicycling like the Flintstones or
Yeah.
driving like the Flintstones.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And that's really the problem with non-traditional workers, is that, for many of them, they're not in a payroll system. Some are, but some aren't, and they don't really have that employer to automatically enroll them into the process. So that's going to be the real challenge, I think, going beyond Secure 2.0s. First of all, how do we find these workers? How do we get them into the system, and how can we do regular payroll, or something like regular payroll deductions? It may be even for those workers that get paid periodically when they sell something or the like. How can we sort of solve or create something that mimics that traditional employee payroll deduction process?
John, I can't let you go without getting a little bit of a tease about what we can expect from Pew Charitable Trust Retirement Savings Project. You want to give us a little bit? I mean, it's almost like, the last season of Yellowstone. You got to give us a little bit of something so that we know when you come back on later on this year, what we can expect.
Well, a big focus has been on these state auto IRA programs. And, as we mentioned earlier, there are about 12 now that have been created. We expect more to be created in the future, and there are roughly 5 or 6 that are up and running. We expect at least a couple more to be up and running this year, and that will continue. So we're watching those very closely to see, how these programs develop, where they're being created, and then the existing ones, how they're rolling out. I think the last number I saw was looking at just 4 states. There are over $735 million in assets. I would expect it to go past $1 billion this year. So we are sort of looking at that, and this is a very unique situation, so we're paying close attention. But we're also doing some research around how these programs interact with the private market. We've done this in the past, and we'll be updating this research this year. So the question being, do these state programs compete with the private sector for retirement plans, or do they complement each other? We found so far that the answer is complementary, but we'll be coming out with some new research that looks at that with fresh eyes.
Yeah, well, very exciting. John, always a pleasure chatting with you. Great research by you, Allison, and the team. Always glad that you could share a little bit with us. And we look forward to having you back on the program when you got some new and exciting research to share.
Thank you, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Thanks, John. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing your perspective. And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeffrey Snyder, and this is your BRN Retirement Update. There's a myth that exists that student loan borrowers are only in their 20s. But as one expert told me, student loan borrowers actually span several generations.
This remains a huge myth within most of the U.S. about who student loan debt affects. People, including policymakers, but I see it with employers too, they think it's still a young person's issue. And as you said, we've talked about this before, but it doesn't hurt to restate the data. Half of all student loan borrowers are the age of 30. A quarter are over 45, and the fastest growing population that are affected by student loan debt are the over 65.
Employers have begun to help their employees by offering student loan repayment resources, but is it enough to pay down the student loan debt and improve retirement prospects? We'll see. With your retirement update, I'm Jeffrey Snyder with the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Invesco's latest Show Me the Income study reflects on the evolving retirement industry today as it faces the pressing need to help participants turn their defined contribution plan savings into long-term retirement income. Key findings from the research uncover that nearly 7 in 10 participants fear running out of money in retirement, and only 22% were very confident they could create a retirement income strategy on their own. What can employers do to help? To learn more about the study and request the white paper, visit Invesco.com/retirement income or contact your Invesco DC professional. Cited research is based on Invesco's work with Greenwald Research. Invesco is not affiliated with Greenwald Research. Invesco Advisors, Inc. is an investment advisor that provides investment advisory and does not sell securities. Invesco Distributors, Inc. is the U.S. distributor for Invesco's retail products and private placements. Both are indirect, wholly owned subsidiaries of Invesco Limited.
Welcome back. This week we discussed how you can cut your travel costs by being a pet and a house sitter. Let's take a look.
We have an alternative way of traveling that gives people really great experiences, and you save money and save costs. We're really very unique. I mean, we're a community of pet-loving travelers, and the way it works is you actually go to stay in somebody's home. So, it's a home away from home. It's slow travel. It's living like a local. And there's pets there for company as well. So whether you're traveling alone or whether you're traveling with a companion or a partner, then wherever you get to, you're never actually alone because you've got these pets. And you're also connecting with the pet parents. So it's a complete dynamic, and it really is a different way of traveling. You can live like a local, you're not a tourist, but you are experiencing being in a place that you may never have decided to go to otherwise. I've looked after goats, I've looked after pigs, horses. I mean, we even have llamas and alpacas. It's anything. I mean, whatever you think you would love to be part of and be in the companionship of, we've got one. Well, it really suits anybody that wants to travel and has got that free spare time. And our demographic, our membership ranges from 25-year-olds up to 75-year-olds. And when you're looking at sitters, what age are those? They're anybody who wants to actually travel and enjoy this lifestyle. And that can be remote workers that are in their 30s. But we do have a large demographic of retirees, whether they're young retirees and decided to retire at 50 or what, and they actually have found that they can travel far more than they ever thought possible because they're saving on accommodations. But it's not just that, it's actually, it's traveling with purpose. It's traveling and having a reason for going and not just, I'm going to go there for 2 weeks, travel and see as much as I can and come home. You can go for a weekend, you can go for a week. The longest sit I've done was 8 months in Spain. And so, there's all of these options. It's not one size fits all. It's whatever you think and imagine, then you can possibly do it. And as far as our pet parents are concerned, again, during the pandemic, there's been a surge of pet owners. I mean, there's more pets in families now than ever before. And suddenly the pandemic stopped and everybody's going back to their lives. So what do they do with these pets? And they want to keep them at home. They don't want to board them. They don't want to send them away they want their animals to enjoy their vacations as much as they do. And that's what happens when a sitter comes in with them. In fact, we've got stories of those sitters that actually go and do a pet sit and they go and look after a dog and they fall in love with the dog that they're looking after so much. They actually go home and get one of the same. I've got one, a colleague of mine that they looked after a Springer Spaniel in New Zealand. They live in San Diego, California. They go home, and after a while, they decided that they wanted their own and they were not going to travel as much. What do? They go and get Zorro, who's a Springer Spaniel. So now they get sitters to look after Zorro, but they still sit as well. So you can actually enjoy both sides of the network and the community. You can have pets and you can go and look after pets. We have members in 140 countries, and our major markets obviously are the UK, the US, Australia, New Zealand. But we have got, if you want to go and look after furry friends in Costa Rica and play with the monkeys in the garden as well, that's possible too. But no, we're in 130 countries throughout the world.
And we also discussed the Medicare Advantage open enrollment, which, by the way, closes on March 31st. Let's take a look.
So Medicare Advantage is really a different way to get your Medicare benefits through a private company. So you can get, your Part A, your inpatient benefits, your Part B, your outpatient benefits. and your prescription drug benefits, your outpatient prescription drug benefits, all through one plan if you'd like to do so. They're offered by different private insurance companies that are regulated by Medicare. And you do have the same appeals rights, et cetera, as you do under original Medicare. But there may be some additional benefits. What you pay may be different. You may pay more for certain things and less for certain things. Folks, if they signed up for Medicare Advantage or if they have Medicare Advantage, or if they signed up in the fall and maybe you're not happy with the product you picked, this is a great opportunity to switch to a different Medicare Advantage plan or to go with original Medicare. Maybe you answered, you saw an advertisement for a particular plan. You thought it was going to be great. And a couple months into the year, you're like, I'm not so sure I want to stick with that plan. This is really your opportunity through the end of this month, through the end of March, to make a switch and go for a different plan, maybe back if you had a plan you liked before, or if you want to go back to original Medicare. Yeah, Medicare.gov is a great place to start. You can do a personalized search if you open a Medicare account, and you can save your list of prescription drugs that you're taking, so you can get a little more information in there, loaded in there when you do your search. But you can compare the plans based on the networks they provide, what they charge for certain services, what your prescription drug costs you can expect them to be, and that's all available on Medicare.gov. Folks, if you want help with it, you can call 1-800-MEDICARE. They'll help you as well go through that. And there are counselors across the country through programs, we call them SHIP programs, the State Health Insurance Assistance Programs. And they'll help you with this as well. And you can get in touch with them either by calling 1-800-MEDICARE and ask to be connected with a SHIP counselor, or if you still have your Medicare and You handbook that we send every year, it's this red, white, and blue handbook. On the back cover, so they can talk to you about Medicare Advantage and really other choices. If you have other Medicare questions or choices you have to make relating to your Medicare, they are a great resource. The nice thing about the SHIP programs too is there are some state benefits that are different in each state that sometimes work with your Medicare coverage. Those SHIP counselors are well aware of those type of programs, so they can help you sign up for them, let you know what's available in your area.
Well, certainly great topics and of course great guests. I want to say thank you to all of our great contributors this week. And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, we'll visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, financial services, government, and a lot more as we break down all the news and events for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.